throughout Iran's society and business world. It's not a one-man show. It's not Venezuela. It can't be just toppled by removing the top guy.
Yes.
So the Iranians are in for the long haul if it's necessary.
Let us check in with Karin von Hippel, the former Director General of the Royal United Services Institute. Hello to you, Karin.
Good morning or good afternoon, I guess. Yes, I hope you're not expecting me to journey into Trump's brain. I'm not sure I'll be very successful.
No, there are limits to the sort of things I might demand, Karin, but I'm always interested in your thoughts. Also, as a former senior official in the US State Department, what do you think, if I can ask you and put it this way, what do you think about Trump contemplating the war ending very soon? This is, of course, after Trump's been on the phone for an hour with Vladimir Putin, who is, of course, an open friend and ally to Iran. Thing is, Karin, that, well, Putin has a way of influencing Trump's thinking, doesn't he?
Well, it seems that the last person he speaks to often has a way of influencing his thinking. I mean, I think the advantage of having very shifting objectives about why the U.S. is at war, the Atlantic Monthly magazine in the U.S. came up with a very good list of 10 excuses he's come up with over 10 days. So if you have all sorts of different reasons, it makes it a lot easier to declare success, because that's, he can basically say, yes, I've achieved all of my goals that I set out.
Yeah, and which I suppose could happen at, well, almost any time. President Trump, when he last spoke, he didn't mention Russia, did he, as a beneficiary of possibly easing oil sanctions. This is for the stated purpose of relieving pressure in the energy market. But that is the presumption, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, Russia is certainly gaining already because oil prices have gone up. Countries like India have been granted a 30-day window to keep buying Russian oil. So I don't think the Russians will be complaining. On the other hand, the Ukrainians have also been offering their expertise to a number of countries in the Gulf about how to intercept Shahed drones, which, of course, have been used by the Russians on Ukraine at incredibly vast numbers. The Ukrainians are very good now at intercepting them. They don't have a 100% rate. So everyone that gets through could cause a tragedy, but they certainly are at least over 85% interception. So they're also offering advice and they're hoping for help in return. So yes, of course, this war is expanding in all sorts of unanticipated ways.
Yeah, and just in that way, in passing, Ukraine demonstrates its strength as an ally to these countries. Look, we've heard from Donald Trump. We've also heard from Pete Hegseth. He's saying that the US-Israeli partnership is winning decisively. And yeah, it seems to be true, doesn't it, that the Iranian defences and political and military command has been degraded, but still no suggestion, at least not now, as opposed to previously, no suggestion of removing the hardline theocratic regime. And the war aims, they are vague. Trump, yes, disappointed by Mojtaba Khomeini being installed as the new supreme leader. But the broad US ambitions of not so long ago of moulding the new Iran, they have pretty much gone.
Well, I mean, Iran has really been planning, I think, as we know, for this kind of eventuality for decades, right? And I think we discussed yesterday, there's a term the Iranians have come up with called Operation Madman, where they try to make it so painful for countries, not just Israel and the United States, but countries in the region and further afield through, the challenges to energy, to shipping, to economies, as well as military attacks on civilian targets, that they will all put pressure on the U.S. and in particular Donald Trump to try to end it. So there's that side of the Iranian, which seems to be actually succeeding in its ambitions.
Yeah.
In the U.S., of course, I think as we've also discussed, the economy is not very happy. The stock market is down. There's been a jobs report earlier in the week. U.S. lost 92,000 jobs in the past month. And, of course, oil prices are shooting through the roof. And, of course, as we all know, there are midterm elections soon. So I do think he will want to end it very soon. But then, in a sense, he may end up leaving the regime in place.
Yes.
Even if it's a rump regime, it's still the regime that'll be in place, as you're saying.
Yeah. So the outcome of this, where it leaves, Iran, let alone the Middle East, let alone the wider world, is still a question so very much still up in the air. As far as coming back to President Trump's reasoning, and he's often said, I think, don't use perfectly sensibly, that you should take President Trump seriously, but not literally. Well, seriously, because he is the president of the United States. He wields quite enormous power. Not literally. And how can one do that when his position, his words, his last statement is so often at odds with the one before that? But taking that advice and listening to President Trump with that in mind, it still does not give you anything like a coherent line of reasoning.
No, it doesn't. And yesterday, even he said, "We'll, we'll be happy to leave when we know they can't make a nuclear weapon tomorrow." Well, that's easily said right now, right? I don't buy this literally or not literally with Donald Trump. He's the president of the United States. You need to take everything he says
Yeah.
seriously. And often he really does mean it, right? I know people often say that. I know you're not saying that, but his supporters say that because they're always trying to read the tea leaves because he is all over the map. And of course, his ministers will say, "Oh, there are 4 reasons. No, we don't want nuclear weapons. We don't want their proxies causing trouble with militias. We don't want them to attack us." And then they kind of go on to other ones about, well, he tried to kill President Trump. Well, we're looking for world peace. So those ones you can kind of set aside because, of course, he's never going to achieve all of those.
Yeah. I wonder where all of this, and we're still in the middle of this drama as it plays out, Karen, but I wonder where all this leaves the standing of the president in the eyes of, let's take, choose who you like around the world, but just take allies. Let's take allies in the Gulf. Now, the world has got used to President Trump and his ways over 1 and a bit terms now, but I wonder how this has affected the way they look at the president and how they consider the relationship with him. Or is everyone firmly of the opinion now, you just hear what the president says the last time he opens his mouth and get ready for something different next time, and that's all anyone can do?
Yes, but he's dragging everybody down with him, right? It's not just the United States that's feeling the impact of high oil prices. It's happening in the UK. It's happening in Asia. And so he's dragging the world down with him. And as he did with the tariffs, right, that were just, thrown at people and then they were taken away and thrown at. So I think in a way, I think people are just going to, as much as possible, try to figure out how to work around him. And I think he's losing a lot of the authority he has because he isn't really looking out for, he isn't looking out for the economy at the global level. He's upsetting Americans. Many Americans don't like going to war for really no real reason. There was no imminent threat, as they claimed in the very beginning. It's not to say we like the Iranian regime. Nobody likes the Iranian regime. But I think he's losing the respect that he may have had from some countries, and he's going to lose a lot more support going forward.
All right, Karen von Hippel, always grateful for your thoughts. Karen von Hippel, the former head of RISI. Now, on the line, Nicholas Hopton, a former British ambassador to Iran. Hello to you, Nicholas.
Good afternoon.
Good to have you here. I mean, we can only wonder about this, I guess, but you'd imagine that in Tehran they're having much the same sort of conversation as we're having now. What is Donald Trump thinking? What is he meaning? What is he going to say next time? In Tehran they will see, won't they, the reports of Trump, the idea of an early end to the war. They'll see talk of him conferring with Vladimir Putin. You wonder, will Tehran likely consider that it now makes more sense than ever just to dig in and ride out this storm?
I think that has been consistently the position from the word go, John, when the US and Israel launched these strikes, what is now almost 10 days ago. The Iranian position, as Karen was explaining before, has been well prepared for years. It is a different response from what we saw last June in the 12-day war with Israel. This time, the Iranians have sought to cause the maximum pressure to not only the aggressor as they see it, but also to neighboring countries in the hope that that will have a wider impact on Washington's thinking. Now, they've done that in a way that has surprised their Gulf neighbors. And despite suggestions over the weekend from the Iranian president, Pezeshkian, that one, he was sorry for having attacked Gulf neighbors and it wouldn't continue. Actually, that's still going on, I understand, those attacks. And I think the Iranians are dug in. They've got a new leader, new supreme leader. They've made that transition, something that hasn't happened for 37 years, but they've made that transition. They've got a new military leadership, having lost a lot of their military leaders in not only last June, but in this latest wave of attacks. They're looking pretty dug in. They are, as Karen explained, very much throughout Iran's society and business world. It's not a one-man show. It's not Venezuela. It can't be just toppled by removing the top guy.
Yes.
So the Iranians are in for the long haul if it's necessary.
Do you see anything here, Nicholas, to encourage those in Iran who are hoping for a freer, less oppressive society?
At the moment, I'm afraid, John, I see the opposite. I think the result of the last week's conflict so far has to be to put in place a new figurehead supreme leader who doesn't have the experience or the wisdom, perhaps, of his father, Ali Khamenei, the previous supreme leader, who, contrary to what many might think, actually was a break on the more extreme aggressive tendencies of the regime. But I think the new regime is actually more of a military security led junta, even than the previous one. And people like Ali Larijani, the head of national security, and military chiefs will be calling the shots now, not the supreme leader. So, I don't think the prospects for the Iranian people look particularly good at this point. They're staying home. They've been told to stay home, and they will, so long as there is clearly
Yes.
a threat to them as soon as they go out on the streets.
I just wonder if you happen to have heard the thoughts of William Hague, the former Foreign Secretary, of course, as you know, who suggested that a new regime in Tehran may be more likely to seek over time to develop a nuclear bomb in secret.
As soon as you stop, they can then go secretly off and try to make a nuclear bomb. And that is more likely that a future Iranian regime will do that rather than less likely after all these events.
So more likely, not even less likely. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think sadly it's probably true. It's always been one of the factors that people have talked about that Ali Khamenei, the last supreme leader, had actually imposed a fatwa on Iran ever developing a nuclear weapon. It's not very clear what steps Iran had taken towards militarization of its nuclear capability. Obviously, it had enriched uranium to a level way above necessary for civilian purposes. But this has often, it's been a point of debate, and the IAEA has not been clear, the International Atomic Energy Agency, in its analysis of this either. I think the Iranian regime now, as I say, dominated by military security hardliners, will look to the lessons of North Korea and Libya in particular, two countries which took different paths when it came to the nuclear weapon. In North Korea, they have gone down that path and they haven't been directly attacked despite a lot of tensions with the United States. In Libya, of course, Gaddafi handed over his nuclear material weapons potential, and as a result of that, we saw him removed from power and killed in 2011. I think the Iranian regime know their history. They will be very aware of that, and the risk is that William Hague may be proved right over time.